Hans Hasle, the author of the book Business as Usual is Over, and the inventor of the new organizational model, the companization, described in the book. So why did you write the book?
I wrote it because my colleagues here at Plantagon, they asked me to, because we had often discussions about the model. I was working with the model for many, many years, and to me it was quite simple to implement it on what we were doing, but not to everyone else. So we had constantly discussions where I thought that, well, I explained this so many times before, why don't you understand it? So a couple of years ago they told me that I had to write it down, so that was why.
Okay. What do you mean by business as usual is over?
Oh, it's obvious, isn't it? No, I think that very many good things that we have in society was created by companies, but also many, many bad things are created by the way that we treat companies or that we use companies. We have a capitalistic society which works pretty well in many senses, but there's one thing that doesn't work at all, that is the short-term perspective on what we're doing. And business can never ever, of course, sustain itself even if we don't change the perspective from short-term perspective to long-term perspective. Every sound business person knows this today, but everyone are suffering under the short-term perspective that we are expected to deliver to. If you go on the stock market, for example, then you have to realize that you can't be so very sustainable in your thinking. You have to relate to the next quarter. If you don't, your stock value will fall. And then you have to learn yourself how to do things in a very, very short-term perspective. Then you end up with having managers having their vision totally run by the next quarter, and owners expecting the company to deliver a higher and higher result. Everyone can understand that that's not sustainable at the end, because the responsibility for a company shouldn't be with managers just focusing on the next quarter. It should be with the owners that should be involved in what the company is doing in the long-term perspective, like it used to be. But today it goes so extremely fast, so we've kind of lost that perspective, and we're trying to bring it back again.
And what about the subtitle, The Red Capitalist? Why do you call it that, and what does this mean to you?
I explained that, I think, on the first page in the book. I am a social entrepreneur. I was working with business for purely idealistic reasons my whole life, or at least my whole grown-up life. I came to the conclusion that if I want to change society to the better, because I see environmental and social and also economical problems that we have, then I ended up doing it from inside business. If you want to see me on a political scale, then many people would say that I'm a right-wing person, and others would say that I'm a left-wing person. If I choose myself, then I would put me somewhere to the left of the middle, because I am quite radical in what I'm saying and how I'm doing things, and most people on the right-wing side, they're not so radical. If they're not really ultra-right, then they are quite radical too. I just want people to know that I'm not a new liberalist. I don't like that at all. I don't believe in all the market tools that we have today. So if you have to decide, I'm more red than blue. But on the same time, I love companies and I love entrepreneurship. And I also think that social entrepreneurs, they are really too cowardless sometimes when it comes to how they market what they want to do. So that was also one plain reason to put this title on the book, to make it more interesting. If you see a red capitalist, what is this? And then you get interested maybe in the books. It was also a sales reason to put this title on it. Social entrepreneurs have to be as skilled as everyone else when it comes to commercial tools. And to make a book interesting is of course one of them.
You have spent many years developing your vision and the idea of the companization. What has been your main driving force?
The main driving force was to help the NGO side, the non-profit side, to earn their own money instead of collecting money from people. This idea came up early or late 80s when this couldn't really happen. If you would talk to a non-profit at that time, telling them or advising them that they could run their own business to earn money for their mission, no one could do that at that time. But that's actually when we started to discuss this. Because I was working many times and many years helping NGOs to become more economy, to get more money for what they wanted to do. And it was always frustrating to see how easy companies were making their money and how difficult it was for the non-profit side to make money. So the simple idea came out from, why couldn't the non-profit side run their own business? Today, we are more, Plantagon, I mean, is more a company with a small non-profit side, or growing non-profit side. But when we are ready with the whole project, I really hope that this is going to be a non-profit movement that is really strong, with lots of people involved, with a successful company, so that no one can say to this non-profit organization that we are just idealistic and that we don't know anything about how to run business, only because we say that long-term perspective and sharing and responsibilities are really important today if a company is going to be successful. So I hope that it's going to go that way, that I personally end up much more with a non-profit perspective on what I'm doing than I have right now, because right now I'm CEO of the company.
So how do you hope the readers will feel and react?
Oh, it's difficult to answer that question, because as I told you, I wrote the book to my colleagues. It was more like to inform them about the model. So I didn't have any author ideas when I was writing the book. I was surprised though that people that did read the book were inspired by it, and that's of course it's a little bit embarrassing, because I don't see myself as an author. I was just putting my ideas down. But if people get inspired, and if mainly they get inspired to use the model, that's great.
So if I'm interested, where do I find the book?
The book is only sold by Plantagon non-profit site, so you would find it on the non-profit side of Plantagon, where you can order the book.
Okay. And finally, what is your advice to people wanting to set up their own companization?
I would read the 7 principles that we formulated many years ago. The 7 principles of the companization. If you kind of don't like what you read in them, then you shouldn't use the model, because you have to realize that the companization is actually thinking about your own idea as more important to the society than it is to yourself. You have to let control go partly over your own idea, and you do this to protect your own idea from being destroyed at the end by greed. This is a really big thing to do. You can imagine yourself, if you have an idea, you want to see it come true, you want to earn money from it as well, but you know that it's also important to the society. If you share this power over your own idea, then you know at the end it's a risk. Maybe you won't control everything exactly the way that you want. Of course, it's not like giving away all the control, because what happens is also that people want to help you. So if you share, it's always like this. You have to take a risk that you lose some control, but you get also very much help. But that's the essence of sharing. And why couldn't you share a company without investing in it? I mean, sharing a company is already done if you buy parts in it. But here, the difference is that you share without having to buy parts in it. You share because you want to share.
Thank you very much, Hans Hassler.
Thank you.